Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. Do not forget to subscribe, like, and share our videos, and please turn on your post notification bells for our latest updates. So today I'm delving into the gist of the man that died after his wife told him her boss, who is the Fcmb MD, actually owns their only two kids. So, Mr. Tunde Thomas, alias Tunde Gentle, who was 45 years old, died in December from heartbreak. So, the two kids from his marriage were discovered to have been fathered by the current managing director of the First City Merchant Bank, popularly known as FCMB, Mr. Adam Nuru. So Tunde's wife, who is Moyo Thomas, was reportedly having a relationship with Mr. Nuru because they worked in the same bank at that point. And according to the gist, the relationship was not a hidden one. It was well known to all the people in the bank. And Mr. Adam is said to be a married man, a married billionaire, and he got carried away in having a relationship with Mr. Moyo, and he actually spared no thought for Tunde, who was bringing up the two children he thought belonged to him. You know how painful this thing can actually be. You think your kids are for you, you're taking care of your kids and everything, and at the end of the day, you find out that these kids aren't actually yours. It's enough to kill a man. So at that point, Mr. Tunde was taking care of his kids. He even, from the gist we had, that he paid their school fees. He acted in a way that every responsible father would do to his kids. He took them for vacations. He acted like, a very responsible father. He was in very good communication with the kids. He was in love with his family, his wife. Everything was going on fine. So at the height of the relationship, the gist said when the older child was about 8 years old, the wife suddenly resigned from FCMB Bank and she traveled to the US with the two children on holiday. So Mr. Tunde actually thought they just went on holiday and would be returning, but reality hit him when his wife refused to return with his kids as well. So, and then he was wondering what was happening, but then she just had to let the cat out of the bag by telling him that he is not the father of his two kids. Oh my goodness, I need to know for me, I just feel like we need to see the reality of the story, the facts about the story, because a whole lot people just hear stuff on social media and then they're deliberating and concluding and all of that. But before then, let me just give you guys the full gist and everything that happened. So when she didn't want to return and she broke the news to him and all of those things, so it led to him having stroke in 2017. He suffered a very big illness, which is stroke and all. So she also filed for asylum to get green card and to bar him from coming into the US. She didn't want him to meet the kids anymore. She didn't want any situation where she would have anything to do with the kids. So it was a bad one for him because she stopped him from ever having access to get into the US at any point in time. And for her, she could actually get the green card at any time. So it really hit him hard that he had a stroke, and in 2017 he suffered a very serious stroke. Well, thank God he recovered from the stroke, but then he was not really the same Tunde that people used to know and all of those things. So over time, he tried to pick up himself, get things together, started a new relationship to see if he can actually move on in life. And we also heard the new wife or woman got pregnant. She was pregnant at the point of his demise. And even on the 26th of December, she invited some close friends and few friends to go visit the family of the new woman with him on 26th. But unfortunately, he passed on and could not attend that meeting or that gathering. So however, the visit was not to be because Tunde was said to have gotten home from work in the night of 15th December 2020, and then he collapsed at his residence staircase and he died instantly. So the autopsy report puts the cause of his death as heart failure. Tunde was said to be a former staff of the defunct Oceanic Bank and was buried on Wednesday, 30th of December 2020. So Nigerians, after seeing this viral story, wrote a lot of petition. About 1,400 petitioners demand sacking of FCMB MD Nuru over the marriage scandal. So there's a whole lot of stories. So people are saying that he actually broke work ethics because a lot of banks do not allow couples to have stuffs I mean, even if they're married or something, I think they don't allow even married couples to work in the same place, let alone even having a marriage scandal as an MD or to an employee or something like that. That he did a very wrong thing by doing all of those things. So we move on as the wife of the late Mr. Tunde actually put up something like a response, but not directly, but this time around she did it through her family. And she has come out to say that she was never in any way told Mr. Tunde, who is late, that he was never the father of his kids, that the kids belonged to Mr. Tunde, and that they just had issues, relationship issues, they had their differences, and there was no way the differences actually affected their kids in any way. So that Tunde is the father of her children, and Tunde is the father of those kids, and they just had issues, and she was even at the verge of reconciling if he was ever going to come back. But then again, he already got a woman he wanted to stay with, and at the point he got stroke, he got better, and then he moved on with life. He already had a woman, so there was no point in any time that she told him that the kids were not his. But there were some things that the family that wrote that response failed to highlight. They never said if she was involved in a relationship with the MD of Fcmb, and if at all she was involved. I mean, she never talked about the paternity test, the DNA test thingy. She never talked about the relationship she had with the MD of Fcmb, if it was true or people are just saying it, or she never actually cleared herself. She just came out to just highlight those points that are already dead. Well, moving on from that, former aviation minister Femi Fani-Kayode also posted that the Fcmb MD is filthy, disgusting, irresponsible, and deserves more than a sack. So he came out to talk about how the MD actually forgot to use his position for something really good, but instead he's been involved in a marriage scandal, and that he deserves more than a sack. He deserves more than a sack because it has actually led to the untimely death of a man who found out that his kids were not his. Coming from FFK, whose marriage was not in any time perfect, but I still feel like the facts need to be lined up for us to be able to conclude if he really needs to be sacked, because the story has to be verified. But looking at the pictures of the kids, I don't know, but the kids kind of like look like the MD of Fcmb, but I do not want to conclude from the facial appearance and the physical things that I'm looking at. But I think the wife of late Mr. Tunde has questions to answer, and some of these questions are: did she ever have a relationship with the MD? And if she did, was it forced, or it was something that was agreed on? You understand? If it was something that was agreed on, she needs to come out and say, of course, she's not going to do all of those things. She's never going to say that. But people want to know, was it something she had to do because of a position that she occupied in the office or not? And again, would she willingly take a DNA test on this matter? These are the questions that need to be answered, because if these things are actually reviewed, it will actually help indict the Fcmb manager. It will help solve a lot of issues and to stop the rumors, because social media has a way of actually exaggerating things and making things blow out of wave. Who knows? Maybe the kids are her kids. Maybe the kids are Mr. Tunde's kids and not even the MD's kids. I mean, the kid, looking at the facial structure and the physical appearances of the kids, they look like that of the MD of Fcmb. But then again, would she be ready to take a DNA test? Would she be able to come out and tell the world that she didn't have a relationship with the MD and that he didn't father the kids? A lot of questions needs to be answered before. So since this story went viral, a whole lot of reactions have been coming from people, and we've been hearing stories about DNA tests, and people have been pouring out their mind and telling their truth and telling their own story as well. It's not like this is the first time we're hearing something like this, or a paternity scandal or DNA scandal, but this particular one actually got people thinking, and you could actually see that people are going to become really concerned with the paternity of their children, regardless of how much they trust their spouses and all of those things. It's becoming a concerning issue. Like, it's becoming an issue to be concerned about. Like, it's regardless of how true the story is, whether the story is true or not, but the truth is, a whole lot of people are going through stuff, they're going through pains, realizing that at the end of the day, they are training someone else's kids. Like the story, I mean, on social media, someone brought up a story um, of how his uncle wanted to marry someone. At the end of the day, he wasn't able to marry the person. I think the person left him to go marry someone else. And before then, the person already told the uncle that he was the father of the child or something like that. And then at the end of the day, she said he wasn't actually the father, it was for someone else. And then she married someone else. And many years later, the marriage broke because this child fell ill, and then they had to do a DNA test or something, blood test or something. And they found out that the bloods weren't even matching. So they ran a DNA test and found out that the child wasn't for the husband. So this lady in question had to run back to this guy again, who she left years later. And then the guy accepted her, and then again she ran out. You see, sometimes people cannot even be trusted. And then sometimes you trust people so much and they just disappoint you. There's a whole lot of stories as regards this DNA test thingy. But then it's left to you to pick what you really want. Would you want to just stay married, trust your partner, and just trust the fact that the child belongs to you regardless of what happens, or say no, I'm not going to just live on trust alone, I'm going to just find out if this child really belongs to me, to avoid stories that touch in the nearest future. So whatever your decisions are, just stick to them. And as for ladies, I feel like we can actually do better. Why put a man in such a hard situation? If the child doesn't belong to the man, just let the man know. I know it's not easy. I can understand the case of where the baby is changed at the point of birth and the parents are not even aware that their kids were changed. That's understandable. But the fact that you know that this child doesn't belong to this man, please just spare that man the time of actually committing suicide or having a heart attack that can actually lead to him dying and all of those things. Just spare him all that trouble and just leave, or just leave on time, or do something that will just save the whole situation rather than just making it look all good. Then at the end of the day, or in the nearest future, everything is torn apart. It's not fair. At the end of the day, everything is torn apart. It's not fair at all. We can always do better. Not trying to judge anyone, but trust me, we can always do better. And if you see signs in relationship, try to fix them on time, or just try to notice them. Don't just do away with those signs that might actually lead to you finding out certain things in future, and at the end of the day, you're crying. I feel like these things can actually be avoided. But in cases where they cannot be avoided, should be sorted out well. Trust me, regardless of how well it's sorted out, it's just very heartbreaking. It's really heartbreaking. So as women, we should actually do better. And as husbands, if you see red flags, watch out for them. So we just hope that the family of late Mr. Sunday stays strong and see how they can actually deal with this issue. Thank you so much for watching, and please do not forget to subscribe to our channel, like our videos, share our videos, and do turn on your post notification bells for more videos and interesting stories on this channel.